Well, greetings. I got more writings from Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and hopefully you won't find this too boring, but this guy is quite intellectual, quite revealing of human preferences that more suicides come from shame or loss of financial and social status than medical diagnoses. I went to a happiness conference. Researchers looked very unhappy. What fools call wasting time is most often the best investment. Decline starts with the replacement of dreams with memories. You want to avoid being disliked without being envied or admired. You will be civilized on the day you spend a long period doing nothing, learning nothing, and improving nothing without feeling the slightest amount of guilt. I could relate to that one. Some who say I am busy is either declaring incompetence and lack of control of his life or trying to get rid of you. The difference between slaves in Roman and Ottoman days and today's employees is that slaves did not have to flatter their boss. For most, success is the harmful passage from the camp of the hating to the camp of the hated. Modernity, we created youth without heroism, age without wisdom, and life without grandeur. People focus on role models. It is more effective to find anti models, people you don't want to resemble when you grow up. Preoccupation with efficacy is the main obstacle to a poetic, noble, elegant, robust, and heroic life. I have the fondest memories of time spent in places called ugly, the most boring ones in places called scenic. They are born and put in a box. They go home to live in a box. They go to what is called work in a box, where they sit in their cubicle box. They drive to the grocery store in a box to buy food in a box. They go to the gym in a box to sit in a box. They talk about thinking outside the box. And when they die, they are put in a box, all boxes. Boy, it's really hot here today. I'm steaming up here. The 20th century was the bankruptcy of the social utopia. The 21st century will be that of the technological one. In most debates, people seem to be trying to convince one another, but all they can hope for is the new arguments to convince themselves. The most depressing aspect of the lives of the couples you watch surreptitiously arguing is that they are almost always unaware of the true subject of argument. His husbands and wives can relate to that. Over the long term, you are more likely to fool yourself than others. People usually apologize so they can do it again. Modernity inflicts a sucker narrative on activities. Now we walk for exercise, not walk with no justification for hidden reasons. Social media are severely antisocial. Health foods are empirically unhealthy. Knowledge workers are very ignorant, and social sciences aren't scientific at all. Failure of second order thinking. He tells you a secret and somehow expects you to keep it when he just gave you evidence that he can't keep it himself. What they call philosophy, I call literature. What they call literature, I call journalism. What they call journalism, I call gossip. And what they call gossip, I call voyeurism. Writers are remembered for their best work. Politicians for their worst mistakes, and businessmen or businesswomen are almost never remembered. You need to keep reminding yourself of the obvious charm lies in the unsaid, the unwritten, and the undisplayed. I like that one. It takes mastery to control silence. Maybe I should stop here. A genius is someone with flaws, harder to imitate than his qualities. What we call business books is an eliminative category invented by bookstores for writing with no depth, no style, no empirical rigor, and no linguistic sophistication. The exponential information age is likely a verbal incontinent person, is like a verbally incontinent person. He talks more and more as fewer and fewer people listen. It is much less dangerous to think like a man of action than to act like a man of thought. You want to be yourself, idiosyncratic, the collective, school, rules, job, technology, wants you generic to the point of castration. Corollary to Moore's law. Every 10 years, collective wisdom degrades by half, and Moore's law stipulates that computational power doubles every 18 months. Mental clarity is the child of courage, not the other way around. Randomness is indistinguishable from complicated, undetected, and undetectable order, but order itself is indistinguishable from artful and randomness. To understand progress, all places we call ugly are both man-made and modern. Newark, New Jersey being an example, and never natural or historical, Rome being an example. I'm surprised about that with Rome, or I'm reading this wrong. Wit seduces by signaling intelligence without nerdiness. Life's beauty, the kindest act toward you and your life may come from an outsider not interested in reciprocation. We are most motivated to help those who need us the least. To value a person, consider the difference between how impressive he or she was at the first encounter and the most recent one. You may outlive your strength, never your wisdom. Weak men act to satisfy their needs, stronger men their duties. I wonder if crooks can conceive the honest people can be shrewder than they. The difference between magnificence and arrogance is what one does when nobody is looking. In a crowd of 100, 50% of the wealth, 90% of the imagination, and 100% of the intellectual courage will reside in a single person, not necessarily the same one. When conflicted between two choices, take neither. Nation states like war, city states like commerce, families like stability, and individuals like entertainment. Academics are only useful when they try to be useless, as in mathematics and philosophy, and dangerous when they try to be useful. For the robust, an error is information. For the fragile, an error is an error. I suspect that IQ, SAT, and school grades are tests designed by nerds so they can get high scores in order to call each other intelligent. Fragility. We have been progressively separating human courage from warfare, allowing wimps with computer skills to kill people without the slightest risk to their own lives. Knowledge is subtractive, not additive. What we subtract, reduction by what does not work, what not to do not what we add, what to do. Oops, I gotta read that again. Forget it. Happiness. We do not know what it means, how to measure it or how to reach it, but we know extremely how to avoid unhappiness. And the imagination of the genius vastly surpasses his intellect. His intellect of the academic vastly surpasses his imagination, and I will stop here.